All right, recruit, settle in. You're here because you're good, but everything you've learned in the books, forget it. Out there, it's a different game. This is your first after-action report, so listen up. This debrief on Operation Rupturing, this is going to show you what it really means to be a Guardian.
Heh, get used to hearing that. In our line of work, obnoxious plot twists are pretty much standard operating procedure. You think you've got a plan, the universe just laughs. We thought we had a mission that would take a few months, and it turned into a 400-year ordeal for the very people we swore to protect. So, lesson number 1, when things get weird, you don't just adapt, you adapt fast.
Okay, let's get into it. Here's the breakdown. We're going to cover the siege itself, unconventional tactics we had to use, how we finally broke their lines, and the ace up our sleeve that sealed the deal. Pay attention. So, the mission on Mount Olympus? Yeah, we succeeded. But it came with a hell of a price tag, one we never saw coming. Turns out, time, it works differently up there. While we were gone for what felt like a few months, 400 years passed for our people down below in the Sky Griffin peristelium. Imagine that. 4 centuries of being cut off, totally alone and completely vulnerable. And for that first 100 years, they forgot us. Everything we did, all the defensive systems we put in place, the stellar systems, it all just faded into bedtime stories. And that's when the Weaver of Calamity made his move. He didn't just charge in sword swinging. No, he was smarter than that. It was a slow, strangling siege. First, he cut off the sea, blocking the phoenix tears that kept them immune to his corruption. Then, he walled off their farms, their hunting grounds. By the time we got back, 400 years later, they were literally on the brink of extinction. Now look closely at this intel. This wasn't just some mindless horde throwing itself at a wall. This was surgical. A calculated attack on everything that keeps people alive. You see it? Gigawraiths at the irrigation canals to choke off the water. Bloodhounds in the hunting grounds turning their food source into a death trap. And then the wraiths, deployed in the farmlands to literally drain their hope and feed on their fear. It was a 3-pronged attack designed to wipe them out, body and soul. So, how do you fight something that methodical? Not with brute force, that's for sure. We had to get creative. We had to fight smarter. We had to use the environment, the land itself, as an ally, and pull out a few assets the enemy never, ever saw coming. And our biggest asset? It wasn't a sword or a shield. It was the battlefield itself. You have to understand, Mount Olympus, it's not just a mountain. It's alive. It's sentient. And seeing what had happened to its people, it was furious. It literally ruptured in a fit of rage, launching massive fragments of itself across the ocean. These weren't just rocks, they were a lifeline, a defensible destination that was actively hostile to the enemy. The mountain itself joined the fight. This is where you see the real shift. The old ways? Totally useless. What good is a stone wall in a siege that lasts for centuries? It just becomes a tomb. So they adapted. Instead of stone, they used life, living defenses, trees infused with phoenix tears that were poison to the enemy. And they went underground, building this incredible network of tunnels for hit-and-run attacks and setting up environmental traps. They turned their home into a weapon. And that brings us to the Magura Magurum, the mole strategy. This was a stroke of genius. While the enemy was inactive during the day, our architects were busy digging this huge network of tunnels right under the plains where the Gigawraiths were camped. Then, step 2, we poked the nest, lured the entire army right onto that weakened ground. Step 3, we hit a remote trigger, blew the seawalls, and let nature do the work. The ground just gave way, a flood of phoenix tear-infused water rushed in, and just like that, 200,000 Gigawraiths were gone. We didn't just fight on the battlefield, we weaponized it. Okay, and the last piece of the puzzle was this gear, sensory disruptor clothing. Our weavers are incredible. Look, this isn't just some fancy camouflage. It's a full-on, multi-layered cloaking system. It literally bends light around you. It's got a vacuum layer that cancels out scent and dampens sound to almost nothing. It even has conductive materials to match your heat signature to whatever's around you. This tech turned our people into ghosts, and it was absolutely essential for getting them out of there. All right, now for the fun part. We had the intel, we had the strategy. This is the play-by-play of how 5,000 horse archers went up against an army of 200,000 and broke a 400-year siege. So, the Gigawraiths had this one nasty trick, a massive area of effect attack they called Rain of Synchronized Hellfire. If we were all bunched up, we'd be vaporized. So our first move was all about survival. I'd give the command, rattle the hornet's nest, and just like that, our archers would scatter. We'd go from one big target to thousands of tiny moving ones. It made their big gun attack almost useless.
But hey, you can't win a fight just by dodging. So the second their volley was over, while they were exposed, I'd yell the next command, defend the beehive. And bam, everyone would converge, focusing all their fire on the enemy. Every arrow was tipped with phoenix tear sap, so every hit counted. It was a deadly rhythm. Disperse, converge, strike. We just kept doing that, wearing them down, pulling them right where we wanted them for the final trap.
Now, before we moved everyone out to face the last 200,000 wraiths, we did something nobody would expect. We threw a festival, a big one. And it wasn't just for morale. This was pure tactical thinking. See, wraiths feed on fear, on despair, on all that negative energy. So by getting the villagers to celebrate, to feel joy and hope, we created a kind of metaphysical static, a cloaking device made of positive emotions. It didn't just hide them during the escape, it actively weakened the wraiths. You see, even the best plans need a game changer. That one thing that pushes you over the top. That festival, that was a taste of metaphysical warfare. For the final act, we had to take that idea and dial it up to 11. We had to tap into something ancient, something powerful, and something deeply personal. 9. Burn that number into your brain. Because we weren't just using some fancy ability or a new weapon. We were working with the 9 phantoms of the Nightmare King. And you gotta get this straight, recruit. They aren't tools. They are conscious, living, metaphysical beings. They're not something you use. They're allies you fight alongside. The proper term is living sigil, and it's something you'll come to understand as you go through the sigil enhancement program. Think of it like this. It's a part of your own power that becomes self-aware. It's not a sword you swing. It's a partner that whispers tactical advice in your ear in the middle of a firefight. The 9 phantoms? They're my living sigils, and collaborating with them is what won us the war. Which brought us to the final and biggest problem, the wraiths. How do you defeat an enemy you can't even touch? Our swords, our arrows, everything just passed right through them. It's the ultimate tactical nightmare. How do you fight a ghost? Well, the answer is in what makes them what they are. The darkness element. It lets them shape-shift, mess with your head, create illusions, the whole shebang. It's why they're immune to physical attacks. Darkness just swallows up energy. But here's the key. It absorbs almost all forms of energy. Almost. And there's your solution. Every power has a weakness. Every element has a counter. And the counter to darkness is light. I worked with the phantom that embodies my light element, and together we unleashed a solar flare. Now, this wasn't an attack. It was an exposure. The light didn't burn them. It just stripped away all the magic, all the illusion, all the invulnerability. It forced them to show their real physical forms. And once they were exposed, well, our goal wasn't to slaughter them. It was to neutralize them. We used the power to open an interdimensional gate. And in one single, coordinated move, all 200,000 of them were struck and sealed inside the Eternal Mirror Gate. The war was over. Just like that. No more casualties. So I want you to remember this quote. Raw power, it's just a blunt instrument. It's dangerous, mostly to yourself if you don't have the wisdom to wield it. But real wisdom, knowing your enemy, knowing your allies, knowing the battlefield, and most importantly, knowing yourself. That is the greatest power there is. That's your first real lesson. Now, go study this report, because next time you'll be doing this for real. Dismissed.